Behind the Shades.
My name is Mike. I am an executive producer of Paraflix Paranormal Plus, as well as filmmaker, video editor, graphic designer, and mindset adjustment coach, and a father of three and a husband. But I'm always staying busy. I love being busy. You can find me at Facebook. It's facebook.com/mhatcher. Instagram at Mike Hatcher Official, and TikTok at underscore, or is it at underscore Warmind underscore? I don't know my own handles, but it's at underscore Warmind underscore. Um, I know my TikTok isn't named for me, but that is actually a organization that I'm currently building and working on as we speak.
Perfect. So take us from the genesis. How did you get involved in all of this, and what was the reason behind it?
Oh man. So I got into the graphic design work. I started a clothing line. Well, I didn't start. I joined working with the clothing line, oh man, years ago. And I fell in love with the design process. The very first design I did was actually on paint. I didn't even know what Photoshop was yet. And it just branched off there. I have many years in the music industry as well. So I wanted to kind of take a step back and learn the other side. I wanted to be artistic in a different way, kind of see visions come to life as far as filming and editing. Um, and everything just kind of started falling into place. It turned into investigating the paranormal. Everybody fell in love with Ghost Adventures when they first came out, and you hear so many people talk about, oh, I want to do this as a career, I want to do this as a job, and it's cool to say that that's actually what I do. To be able to go out and film and investigate and own a streaming platform, and everything just kind of, if it wasn't for paranormal, I'd have never become a life coach. If it, everything just really pushed me to where I am now.
How did you connect the two of paranormal and becoming a coach? Like, how did those two areas connect to you?
Well, I fell into this terminology. It was called shadow work. And had not it have been for being in the paranormal, I'd have never known what shadow work is. And it just really opened my mind to a whole different side of who we are as individuals. And just those two words really transformed my life. And I'll tell you, it's been a ride.
Those, because for me, when I hear shadow work, I don't truly know what it means, but I know it's definitely helpful for a lot of people. And one thing I like about that I've gained a lot of respect for when it comes to coaches is that even though there may be like a different style or like a different take on it, or even like they may pursue things a little bit differently, they're all ultimately there to help, right? They want to see you improve. They want
Right.
to help you grow. So when you mention shadow work, what does that entail? What does that mean for those who may not know?
Oh, it's a lot of hard work. But what shadow work is imagine, and one of the best terminologies I use this is, what do we use our basements for? Our basements are stored dust, dirt, old memories, just garbage, junk that we don't want to see again. We don't want to remember is there. We don't want to know anything about. That is your shadow as an individual. Those are traits that can be good, they could be bad, things that are molded in our minds as children that we grow up to believe. And um, pretty much shadow work, it helps you find your authenticity, who you are, and form your own path in life outside of what your parents might expect or what your friends might expect of you. um, there's a lot involved, but it takes a deep dive into understanding who you really are. And it's something you have to be open and honest with yourself about in order to get there.
That sounds like something I can definitely use. I've
It's
been
I'll tell you what, it took me learning to do that, and I'll get real quick, brief background of my life. I grew up in an abused family. You know, I spent my first Christmas as a child in foster home, so I know what it's like to go through a lot of painful things and not wanting to forgive people, not wanting to let go and move on. Um, Going through shadow work and actually becoming a mind adjustment coach, actually, I as a kid, I swore when I turned 18, I would never talk to my mom again. I swore I would have nothing to do with her. And to this day, after going through shadow work, my mom's my best friend. I don't know what I would do without her. Um, and I lived majority of my life as an atheist. I did not believe in God. And I'm sitting here now. I have a very good relationship with God.
That's
It's insane
fantastic.
how this works.
Yeah, yeah, because that's fantastic to hear because it sounds like it was like a transformation of you where you were one way for so many years. And then when you started to do this for yourself, you realize, wow, like I'm becoming a totally different man. And now you're helping others find that same journey. Would that be accurate to say?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I know for me, when I was trying to figure out my life, like my 20, because I'm in my 30s now, my 20s was such a struggle. I didn't have a good relationship with my mother, didn't have a good relationship with my father, didn't have a good relationship with a lot of my family members. And I was going through all these other things just because I saw them as representations of things I didn't want to be associated with at that time. But then as I got older and started to work on myself, that's when I realized, hey, you can repair relationships if you tried hard enough. Granted, both people have to be willing. You don't want to be chasing after the other person, right?
Right.
Right. But you have to understand, okay, this is where you have fallen short, and this may be where they have fallen short. What's some of the commonalities that you find with the people that you work with that maybe is preventing them from reaching the type of journey and the type of success that you have found, or maybe I have found, or many others have found as well?
Oh, I come across a lot of people that they're just stuck in their ways. They're stubborn. Um, they'd rather play victim than be accountable, you know. And I can tell you why I decided to be a life coach and why I decided to be an adjustment coach. Um, you know, that's one story that I've been coming out and actually talking to people about. You know, it was something that really flipped everything in my mind. And um, if you'd like, I mean, I can tell you that story real quick. All right, so it's a little tough one to talk about because it's something you know you wouldn't expect to go through, but it is something we all go through. And I tell people in the beginning the one reason why it's hard for me to share is I don't want to paint a bad picture of my wife. But so my wife, plain and simple, I met my wife when I was 14. She was 11. We've been friends since, and I'm just turned 38. So we've been friends that long. Married for almost 8 years. So, flat out honest, I was a major alcoholic. It, Alcohol was my vice. I drank every day, 6 pack, 12 pack, get home from work, go to work. I can't tell you how many times I went to work hungover, still drunk. Weekends would come along. Honestly, I was spending probably about $300 a week on alcohol. Now I barely drink. 6 packs been in my fridge for almost a month. I barely touch it now. But in the first 6 years of our marriage, I come out admit it in the beginning of the story. I was very verbally, mentally, and emotionally abusive. A lot of it did come from my past. A lot of it came from a lot of the hatred that I had for my mom and my upbringing. But I was very never physical. That is one thing. You know, I like I said, I grew up in a physically abusive family. So one thing I would never do is hit anybody. But I'm very verbally, mentally, and emotionally abusive towards my wife. Always drinking. Um, when we got together, I came into the relationship with her having a son. So it was hard for me stepping in to be a stepfather. It's very hard. There were a lot of times that I felt undermined, unappreciated, walked all over, unwanted, just a typical new guy in the relationship, and it pushed me back. And at the time, I was doing a lot of design work. I owned a clothing line. I was running a radio station. I was drowning myself in work because I felt unwanted at home. So, if I don't feel wanted, I'm just going to go work. I'm going to, so I pretty much barricaded myself in the office, always working. And a couple of years down the road, I found out she was having an affair. It sucked. I did what any man would do. I kicked her out. I told her to take the kids and leave. Um, I blackout drunk, of course. I'm still not proud of that night, but something clicked in me to actually. We went a couple days not talking. When I actually agreed to talk with her, we sat down and we had a conversation. And I did the one thing that men fail to do, and that's listen, be accountable. She sat me down and she apologized. She goes, I'm sorry. I lost who I was. I lost who we were. This is the way you've been for the last couple of years, and it pushed me away. We had that conversation, and I told myself that, what? One of two things is going to happen here. Either we're going to get a divorce and I'm going to go on to the next relationship, still be an angry alcoholic, still be depressed, still hate everybody, drown myself in work. And then she's going to go on to the next man and either A, be completely happy or cheat on him too. So I go, what are my options? Or I could fix this because I am in love with this woman. I've been in love with her since I was 14. Or I can suck it up, admit that I am the what caused this. I am the reason you had if I wasn't an alcoholic, I wasn't as mentally abusive as I was, this would not have happened. And I took accountability. We the last 2 years have been the best our marriage has ever been. We got into one fight in the process of getting over everything and dealing with it. And that night was the first time in 6 years she called the cops on me. I was drunk, and all the memories. It was probably about a year later. All the thoughts came flooding back, and it sparked something in me, and I just fit of just anger. And she ended up calling the cops. The cops made her leave and me stay home. And as she was walking out the door, she looked at me and said, how would you feel if your daughter brought home a man like you? That was the day I said I was done. And it's been 2 years. So I've taken better care of myself. I held myself accountable for the last 6 years of our marriage, and I have done everything I can to make it better on my end. And she's done the same, and that led me into coaching. That led me into diving deeper into shadow work. So that whole process is really what changed my life.
Congratulations on being 2 years sober,
Not
right?
completely, not completely. I like my problem was limit. I had no limit, but I learned that it's okay to drink on occasion. Like I like a beer with a good burger. I like, but I got to the point where I started overdoing it, and that was the problem.
For me, to hear that story, it reminds me of what you mentioned that there's a lot of people that when something bad happens to them, they always think that it's 100% the other person, right? It's not, okay, woe is me. I did absolutely nothing. I remember sharing a story with someone and saying, and asking them, in all your bad situations, what role did you play in it happening?
Hmm.
And and a lot of people don't ever think of that. They just think that, no, I just woke up, I'm Jesus of Nazareth, and bad things just happened.
Right.
Right?
I've
And I went
encountered a
to,
lot of those.
yeah, and I asked him, like, it doesn't work that way,
Nope.
right? Like, because if it worked that way, then many people would be going through, then everyone would essentially be going through the same issues, right? Like you mentioned, like cheating, for example. That means every single person would be going on cheating because it doesn't work that way. And earlier in my career, when I was helping people, I spoke to one lady and she cheated on her husband. And then in turn, her husband ended up cheating on her. But when the husband cheated, the
She
woman that
left.
he cheated with got pregnant.
Oh,
So now there's that consequence, right? So people were telling her to leave, but in her mind, she's like, how can I leave when he took me back when I cheated first? So she was trying to like rationalize her situation. So what are your thoughts on something like that?
that's a tough one. You know, that was my wife's biggest fear is that I was going to go do it for revenge. You know, and I think in that situation, it definitely would probably have to be for revenge. You know, because it's a painful thing to go through. You know, I when I found out and we worked on it, you know, it was very painful to me. And I sit back and I go, I couldn't let her, you know, go through that what I just did. Like it sucked. But I mean, everything comes down to intent.
Absolutely. And even if you, let's say in some alternate universe, right? Someone says, okay, I'm going to agree. You're allowed to cheat on me one time. I'm the type of person, when I think about that, I'm like, okay, the person you select, were they always in your back pocket?
That's a good question.
Right. But how many men would actually ask that? Because, men, we don't ever want to hear the answer to that.
Right. See, and that's a good point because there's my wife had told me that there was never anything sexual. It was just emotional. It was just somebody, you know, she would go to. And honestly, I don't even want to know if it was anything more than that. I don't want to know. It's I'm past it. I'm over it, you know, and uh oh man, I don't know. That you're right. That's one of those things. Sometimes we just don't want to know the answers.
Oh yeah, we don't. It's not like those movies where they give you every detail, every position, and you're like, oh my lord, please stop.
But then of course the woman, she's gonna want to know everything.
Everything, everything. I dated someone in high school, and I was told she cheated on me when she went on vacation. We only dated a few months, and it's high school, so it's not really, but it's still important, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Um, and then when I asked her about it, she denied it, and then eventually it came out. She told me sorry. And then she started to like tell me what was going on. I was like, let me stop you right here. You admitting is enough right now. I don't need to know what exactly was done or anything of that nature. But you're right. Like if it was reverse, because she was asking, she's like, you don't want to know? She's like, I would want to know. I'm like, but what is knowing the intricate nature of it? What does that do for you? That was always my curiosity.
Just adds fuel to the fire. You know, I
Yeah,
don't.
like they could just be like, you did this with her, you don't do this with me. But you're absolutely right. It's something where it's like, okay, you did it. What can we do to get past it? And as I got older in age, it wasn't the end all and be all cheating that I thought it was when I was in my 20s. I began to realize, like many other things, you can work through it. If as long as both people are willing, let's have a conversation similar to you and your wife at that time. But was that difficult for you to sit down and have that conversation?
Yeah, it was. You know, I mean, as men, what is the last thing we want to be? The last thing men want to be is vulnerable. We're supposed to be this strong, you know, stand your ground and be fierce, you know, all the time. But I think it gets to a point, men, we have to show our soft side. We have to, um that's I don't even know where I was going with that thought, but it's all about, we don't want to be vulnerable, but sometimes we have to be. We have to put ourselves in those situations where we have to admit to ourselves and everybody else that um we fuck up, we mess up. I don't know if I was allowed to cuss.
No, you are. So swear away,
Cool.
my friend. Swear away.
I'm a pirate. But
And
yeah,
that's
it all comes down to vulnerability. Vulnerability, accountability, and just admitting when you're wrong.
I think that would go a long way for a lot of men, especially when it comes to the pain that we go through. You look at the stats, look at the numbers. Men suffer on so many different levels and so many different ways when it comes to our female counterparts. And that whole thing about I'm a man, I'm supposed to be strong, I can't feel this. One of the most devastating things I can think of that can happen to man is chaos or maybe discomfort in his own household. With someone that he has decided to say, that's the person I want to love. That's the person that I want to love me. And we value our peace. And it's unfortunate that so many of us will say, you know what? I'm going to suffer in silence and I can't reach out to anyone else.
Well, I think I guess that would depend on, I guess, your situation. That's the thing I like the most about my wife is, uh, so the area I'm sitting in now, we bought the house we're in just because of this area. Um, I mean, it's my office. It's got its own bathroom. It's got its own heater. So my wife knows that I enjoy my peace. I enjoy being by myself. I enjoy doing these things. But at the same time, she also has things she enjoys. She has, so I think couples, not even couples, I think everybody nowadays is just so, I remember when I was a kid, my parents went and did everything together. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, I think we've allowed social media and everything to just come in between our relationships. Everything is so easy. Oh, I can flip through Facebook and find my next husband or like this girl's photo on, and it's sad that we've just lost connection with even our own families.
It's like you turn to social media and you can know exactly who's breaking up and why.
Right. And then you got everybody under there, all the guys, I'm sorry, let's hang out. It's, I try and keep my personal stuff off Facebook like that. It gets obnoxious from time to time.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way. When I was on Instagram actively, I used to see people that I knew from, let's say, like a job that used to work at or whatever the case is. And I knew that they're on their, let's say, the third boyfriend for, in a couple months or their second wife in a few months. And I used to look at myself and wonder, why is it that I know so much about these people's life and I haven't seen them in person in years, right?
That's the power of social media. I mean, I actually had so I quit my job not too long ago. And I had this kid. I didn't really work with him at work. I did landscaping. So I mean, we kind of knew each other. We didn't do any jobs together. But I'd been there for 2 years, 3 years. And I never talked to this guy. Never, even at company get-togethers, picnics, whatever. I never talked to him. And a couple days ago, I ran into him at the store, and he tried talking to me, asking me how things are going, how everything's going. And I looked at him. I was like, "We worked for the same company for 3 years, and I never said one word to you. Why am I going to waste my time talking to you now?" And I just walked away. it's I don't get people's mentality sometimes. I can be harsh. I can be pretty strict, mean sometimes.
I think that's needed sometimes because just because you worked with someone doesn't mean that you're friends.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And it was a company, of course, one of those, oh, we're family oriented. Yeah, okay.
Not when the pay is so different, as they would say, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I get that, especially in the let's say the white collar jobs or the corporate world, where it's always that seems to be the theme, right? They sell you that we're family with this and that, and then you see the unevenness and then a lot of times the unfairness that wouldn't necessarily happen, not in any family that I know of, but it's a way I always felt to rally the people together, saying that yes, you know what, Mike, me, you, and everyone else, we're all family, so we're all in this together. Meanwhile, I'm taking 75% of the profits. I'm paying you the same salary for the last 2, 3 years, and whenever you ask for a little bit more, it's just like, well, I can't give any more, Mike.
I
Hard
mean
times for the family.
that's exactly, kind of the point, kind of the reason why I left. Going through all this and all these changes and getting, close to God and even everything that's going on in the world right now. I sit back and I look and I go, wow, we're going through what I believe is a spiritual war right now. Like, firmly believe everything going on is spiritual. We're fighting these dark forces that have taken over politics, and I sit back and I go, wow, I'm working for a company that does $2 million a year, and I'm bringing home $30,000. So pretty much, I'm slaving away to make sure your kids go to college, and my family what? What's the point of this? So I quit to start my own thing. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna escape the matrix and do my own thing.
You're better off. And I had a conversation with my friends and I was trying to tell them the importance of ownership and creating your own. And it was hard. It was a difficult conversation, not because the person didn't understand what I was saying. It's just you can see the struggle in their eyes, right? To say that, okay, but I don't want to unplug. It's okay here. It's safe because when you're working for a company, whoever started that company, they took on the risk all those years ago, right? Now
Right.
you're just going in there and you're doing your Monday to Friday. When you were going through your journey from your faith and your spirituality and your religion and things like that, how important has it grown to you now to have that as a foundation of your life?
Oh, it's for me personally. It's gotten important. I question everything that I do. I question everything that I say, what I study. Um, I'm working on trying to, my even my wife wasn't a big believer in God. Um, my kids, it's not something I force on them. That's something that they can hear me talk about, but they can form their own opinions. But right now, it's something that's actually very, very close to me.
As we begin to close, Mike, what's some advice that you want to give to maybe the next group of men and women who are struggling to find themselves and they just want to figure out, especially with everything that's going on in the world today?
Honestly, the best advice I can give anybody is just be you. Be the authentic you. I mean, nowadays it's hard to tell and give anybody advice. You feel like you're going to give the wrong advice, the wrong person's going to hear it. It's gotten so I don't even know that the best way to describe it, but all you can do is be yourself. Love everybody. That's all life is. Life is nothing but love, forgiveness, compassion, and understanding we're all human. We all make mistakes. We're all here to just live, die, and teach. When God said go to work, he wasn't talking about getting a 9 to 5 job. He was talking about what he put you to do on this planet, and that is to love, to teach, and be yourself.